Welcome to the Travel Business Unpacked, where passion meets possibility. Here's your host, Meredith Calloway.
Well, hello and welcome to the Travel Business Unpacked podcast. I am your host, Meredith Calloway, and one of the co-founders of Gifted Travel Network. And on today's episode, I have another Gifted Travel Network advisor, top producer club member, Katie Crago with KHC Grand Travel. Welcome to the podcast, Katie. Thanks for joining.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. So tell everybody where you are airing from today.
I live in a suburb of Birmingham, Alabama. This is where I'm from. So grew up here, had a short stint in Orlando, Florida, and then an even shorter stint in Chicago, which is my favorite city in the world, and then back.
Me too.
Is it really? I did not know that.
Yes.
Okay,
I
hence
love
hence the picture behind
Chicago.
me. It's my favorite city ever. So that's where our oldest was born, and we decided to move back closer to home after he was born. So we've been back here a while. So
Yeah,
Birmingham is home.
awesome. Well, that takes me to one of the reasons why I'm really excited to have you as a guest on the podcast because the whole point of this podcast is to really unpack the journey of becoming a travel entrepreneur. And I truly believe that this journey is a fantastic journey for a lot of different types of people, but those types of people don't really understand it and even know it's possible. And I would say that you probably started out that way as well. So let's go back to like your beginning. Um, I know that you work for Walt Disney World, right? And you're a
Mhm.
huge Disney fan. And I know that there are a lot of people who are like true Disney fanatics that seriously consider this profession, but don't always sometimes get into it and then end up falling into that accidental hobbyist path, which we can talk about, or just are too afraid to take that leap. So tell us a little bit about your love of Disney and your experience of getting to work for Walt Disney World, which is I think super cool.
It was actually amazing. So I started on the college program, which some of the listeners may be familiar with. So it's where you go and you take a semester during school, and you're really doing grunt work. So I worked at the World of Disney. I loved it. I made each day fun. I remember having contests with other people. We would ask all of the different guests who were coming up to us what their favorite attractions were, just anything
Yeah,
that we could do to make it more than just I'm ringing up merchandise at a shop.
right.
Back, did an internship the next year in finance, so I worked in what I would consider the bank for the Magic Kingdom back when people used cash. So we counted a lot of cash and we entered
Wow.
funds.
I did that too. That's
Did
and
you
I counted cash. I worked for as a bank teller in the summers
Okay.
in and the bank branch was in a massive mall in New Jersey. I mean, New Jersey's like the land of malls, and was one of their biggest malls of all. So we took in so much more cash than we paid out because all of the stores would come and deposit the cash that they got from that day's sales. So sorry to take you off
No,
there, but
that's
we had a
exactly
money
what
counter in the back room.
Yes, that's exactly what we were doing because we were taking in all the cash that came into the Magic Kingdom during the day. So, that's fascinating that we were doing the same thing. So, I met my now husband of, goodness, 24 years. I met him
Wow.
while I was doing that internship. So, that's why fast forward after school, I went back to Florida. I actually worked for Walt Disney World as my first career in finance. So, I worked at that point, I was in Team Disney and worked on the team with the monthly forecast and the annual operating plan, 5-year plan. So we consolidated all of Walt Disney World's financials. So
That's
it
really,
was it
really
was fun.
cool. I've only ever heard incredibly positive things about working for Walt Disney and the kind of training that you get mostly on customer service, and it's a corporate culture, but it serves you very well in your career, if you have that on your resume.
100%. I think one of the most interesting things that I got to do while I was there I auditioned for something called Traditions, and that
Yeah.
is when a new cast member they're called cast members instead of employees. So when a new cast member comes to work at Walt Disney World, you all go through something called Traditions. So
Okay.
back in the day when I taught it, it was a full day. So I auditioned, I was fortunate to get the part, and I got to teach Traditions for a year. It's only a one-year stint, so it's a special event that you can be a part of, and that was amazing. That's where we were teaching the culture and the whole, two-finger point, all of those things.
Yeah.
It very much is ingrained in you, and it's important. So, I was
Yeah.
glad to be a part of that.
Well, I can see how you would have, really done a really good job in that role, so why you got it to begin with.
Thank you. It was
Um,
a big honor, huge honor.
yeah. So let's take it in that direction, because if there's one thing I know about Katie Crago, it's that she has the biggest heart you could ever imagine. Um, you have 3 kids or
I
4?
do. I have
3.
3.
So
Um,
she's a mom of 3. She's obviously a wife too because she met her husband at Walt Disney World, working for Walt Disney World. Um, but also a travel business owner. Um, but I think, um, that is probably your greatest strength and maybe even your magic sauce. Yeah, your special sauce when it comes to why people wanna work with your travel agency instead of somebody else's is because you just ooze this, nurturing, you know, very, um, helpful spirit when you talk to you. So, um, I can see why that core culture was so, um, what's the word? You were so drawn to it when you first, one of your first experiences out of college, um, or even still in college. By the way, my husband did the, summer program too. He did the summer internship
okay.
during the summer, not during the school year. And he has nothing but the best things to say about that summer. He just had the time of his life, loved it. He worked at Epcot. I think he handed out hot dogs to the pavilion.
Yeah, I was lucky, to be in merchandise because it was air conditioned. So,
Yes,
yeah, I did
exactly.
have friends in outdoor foods that were, selling popcorn in the 100-degree heat. I was fortunate.
Yeah. So, and I do know that Disney's very, very selective when they hire, even starting with that college program. So the fact that you were one of the selected few, it also says something about you. So let's talk about, what does customer service mean to you, and how do you infuse that in your business?
That's a great question. I think for our team, honestly, is treating our clients the way we would wanna be treated and doing things the right way every time, even if it might be uncomfortable. I really think it boils down to that. It's the passion behind what we do is that we are making a difference for these clients who are traveling. And it's easy to put yourself in their position and to think, especially if there's been an issue and they're reaching out because there's an issue, put yourself in their position, understand they might be nervous, they might be scared. This is not something they do all the time. So we want to be there to listen and then fix the problem if there's a problem. We want to make sure we're doing everything on the front end to manage expectations. I think that's a huge part of client service is managing expectations as much as you can on the front end. People tend to get frustrated if something is not what they expected it to be.
Hmm.
So I that's big for our team is just managing those expectations, I think.
Right, right. So obviously, having that outlook on customer service and really infusing it into your business, you clearly do a really good job at that because you're you're a top producer. You have been a top producer since you've always been a top producer since we launched the top producer program. And so, how if someone's sitting here listening and they are like, "Oh my gosh, it is someone who loves Disney. I love Disney and I've always thought about getting into travel, but I know that." So talk to that person about how you built your, I guess, book of business, and how do you keep the momentum? How do you achieve that top producer status and then keep it?
What a great question. I I if I'm being completely honest, I think it's hard if you want to stay with just booking Disney trips. I To me, that's the key. I love Walt Disney World. We go all the time. I have nothing but wonderful things to say about my time working there and all of my friends that I've kept in touch with. I started travel planning with theme park trips. That is what I started with actually 10 years ago. And I thought, I'll do this while my little one has gone to preschool, as the hobbyist, that what we talk about, where it's not, I
Mhm.
didn't intend for it to become something more than full
Right.
time. But I think what I learned very quickly is while I have a lot of passion behind that, and we do still book quite a number of Disney trips, I wanted to make that transition to book more than theme parks.
Mhm.
So I think that is key if you want to move into the luxury sector and you want to be a top producer, you need to find where your passion lies behind what you like about the theme parks, but how can you use that for other locations? Because you can have passion around a lot of different locations that are going to help your business grow.
You nailed it on the head, and I'm so glad that you said that and you were so upfront about it because that's the dirty little secret that I harbored so much shame in my first 5 years as a travel advisor because I was not making any money, and I left a very lucrative career to do this, and so I felt, and I was a financial analyst, so I felt like, I should be able to figure out my numbers, but I stuck my head in the sand and didn't, until I decided to take my head out of the sand and started looking at it, and one of the things, and I've written about this in my book, The Seven-Figure Travel Entrepreneur, which is coming out this fall, um, is one of the 3 biggest blind spots for travel advisors that is the reason why so many get stuck and fall into this accidental hobbyist trap is because there's not clarity on how to monetize the business. And sticking to theme parks is not going to help you monetize the business. So, why? Because you get 10%. You're gonna have to split that 10% with your host agency most likely, so you're getting 80% of your 10% commission, and you do 2 bookings a week at $5,000 a booking, your maximum revenue potential is gonna be in the area of $50,000. Revenue, total revenue generated by the business. So, um, it you can love Disney and still build a seven-figure business. Exactly what you said, like, you can still book it. That's definitely part of what you do. But there's a ton of people that wanna do Disney in the luxury way, and so, that's probably the best way to continue to do Disney is to identify the luxury Disney clients and then help them take the Disney trip and then help them take the trip beyond Disney.
100%. And that is honestly how I built my network of clients. It was because I was the go-to person for Disney, and then we just showed them everything we could do with that trip,
Mhm.
and so they reached out to say, "Hey, can you book X or Y?" And 100%, that is how I built my base of clients.
Yeah.
It's all been through referrals. And what I do now is I only take certain Disney trips. So I have parameters around what my minimums are, as far as length of stay or type of resort.
Yeah.
So I've just had to reframe that because I don't have time to take all of them.
So, how did you know how to move into luxury in terms of on the product side? Were you already experiencing the luxury travel that you're now selling, or did it have more to do with getting invited to go on a trip and then experience a product or a franchise, maybe a certain hotel line or a tour operator that you had never experienced before? How did you get the product knowledge?
I would say more the latter. So being invited to experience different things. I've been extremely fortunate through Gifted Travel Network to have some amazing opportunities, which I now can offer to my clients. So
Yeah,
I would say it's definitely the latter.
the latter. And how
Yeah.
much of your travel with your family yourself inspires what you do, for others?
I would say
Like,
a fair
you had
amount.
way.
Uh, we try well, sometimes we often repeat trips. So we love Chicago. So we go to Chicago twice a year as a family. We go in the summer so we can see the Cubs play, and we go in the winter so we can watch the Blackhawks. Um, so we try to do a really fun trip every year. But then we have our staples that we like to go back and do. I think our travel has really helped. Obviously, once you've been somewhere, you know it so much better and you're going to have more confidence in answering those questions from your clients.
Yeah,
The great thing about once you transition, just speaking to those people who want to transition, once you transition into the luxury sector and you have those partners who are invaluable and they become your friends, once
yeah,
you have those people to lean on, it's amazing. You can ask them all the questions until you get to that point where you have enough bookings and you have those relationships. Go and experience it yourself. My family went to Hawaii a few years ago. I can't tell you how many Hawaii trips we book, and I feel confident answering the questions because we've been there and we've done those
yeah,
things. So that I would strongly recommend to people as much as you can to experience new locations so you
yeah.
do feel more confident.
So, just thinking about, one of the things I write about in the book, but also just a very common, um, not mistake, but blind spot I see people make when they are coming from a career where they've been an employee in the corporate world and starting this business is that they bring their employee mindset to their entrepreneurial journey, which I did myself. Um, it didn't occur to me to establish projections for myself, financial projections for myself, and run numbers and track them. It didn't occur to me, um, to really think much bigger. And I was very blind to a lot of the scarcity mindset weeds I had inherited from, probably my parents, maybe teachers, and I don't know. But, it wasn't until I, you know, faced my demons and was like, "You know what? It's time to turn this business around. I'm gonna take my head out of the sand. I'm really gonna figure this out." And what I started chasing some silver bullets. I kept thinking, "Oh, it's my marketing. I'm just not marketing doing as good of a job marketing and bringing on new clients." But what I really figured out in hindsight is that it was my mindset that was the driver to everything, right? And I had to shift that mindset. How is that for you? How is that transition for you? And is there a mindset belief that you really had to overcome? Or was there some kind of an entrepreneurial habit that you hadn't been developed, but now is well developed, like setting clear goals, stretching yourself, surrounding your supportive community, those kind of things?
I think well, I wanna say first, I think I'm always improving my mindset. So please,
Mm.
no one take this as if I have all the answers. I feel like I'm improving all the time, honestly.
Yeah,
I think one of the things I have honed in on more recently is really defining who my client is, and
very cool.
that's a huge shift that I think is important for people to make, and I think it transitions as you grow confidence and as your business grows and as your client base grows. You only have so many hours in a week, so you can
Mhm.
only spend so many hours working on different things. So at a certain point, hopefully, when your business becomes successful enough, you do have to weed out what you are going to continue to do versus what you no longer have time for. Part of that is building a team. I have
Mhm.
the most amazing team. I truly don't know what I would do without them. So part of that is being able to delegate some of those tasks that you used to handle in the beginning that now you just no longer have the time to do.
That's
But I
huge.
think
That is
it is.
so
And I think, I've been to obviously some workshops within GTN where we talk about, hire before you need to hire. That stuck with me, because it's so
hire
true.
ahead of
Yes, because if you get to the point where you're drowning, then it's all the more stressful. So anticipate that growth, be ready for it, and be training even the people on your team that you have now, be training them for new things for them to do so that they can begin to take on more responsibilities. Make sure people don't feel stagnant in their roles. Um,
Yep.
and then, sorry, I got sidetracked a little bit about from the client, but I think developing and figuring out who your client is,
So
that is
smart.
huge. In the beginning, I think, like most of us, you want to book any trip possible. And when somebody comes to you and they want to book a trip, you are excited to do it. And in the beginning, that's great because it's all practice, right? I think I booked a hotel for my sister in Montgomery one time because she was going for a night and I was excited to book it. I mean, this is 10 years ago, because it was practice for me. So I got to practice using the systems and, what all the workflow would be. And now, obviously, I very sweetly say, "Please take care of that. I just don't have time to do that." But in the beginning, you wanna take everything, and what you have to start to do is transition and realize that you are not the right fit for everybody, and then equally as important, everybody is not the right fit for you. And
Mhm.
that took me a while to get there, and I'm so grateful to be there,
Yeah.
because it just allows you to open up the space to work with the people you truly love and the types of clients you enjoy working with, and there's so much less frustration because when you're not the right fit, either they're not the right fit for you or you're not the right fit for them, things don't go as smoothly.
I I love that you brought that up. It's such a simple concept, but it's a game changer. It's and how many times have I said and stood on a stage and said, "When you try and speak to everyone, you speak to no one."
Mhm.
And at the heart of what you're saying is actually a scarcity mindset. And the reason why people don't do that and they wanna just book anything and everything that comes their way is because there is an inherent belief in a scarcity of clients. And so that's an opportunity to be plucking that scarcity mindset weed as it's showing up for you in the belief that there's a scarcity in clients. Um, and I guarantee that you found that once you got clear on your clients and started to learn how to say no and, gently move people in a different direction if they weren't a good fit for you, that the business actually grew.
100%. And I think so much of that is the confidence in knowing what you want and what you're capable of,
Mm,
and that's hard to teach. It's hard to
mhm.
teach. I have some, friends in the travel business that are just not quite there yet, but I also wasn't quite there yet, years ago.
Yeah,
So it is a progression, and you just have to trust yourself and, if you have your sights on what you want, trust yourself and trust the process of learning that you'll get there.
yeah, yeah. You also identified something else that is very, very important, but a lot of people struggle with, which is you have an amazing team to help support you. So tell us about your team. Um, Share what you want, but I'm curious as to like how do you delegate? How do you divide and conquer? And how did you find people that you feel like I have the most amazing team?
One of them is super easy. I have a small team, so we're a total of 3, including me. One, the super easy one is my cousin, Audrey.
Yes.
So, Audrey
Love,
is an
love,
indep
love Audrey.
yeah, I could write a term paper about how much I love her. So she is an independent contractor on my team, and it really fell into place. So we spend every other Thanksgiving together. She mentioned one year, "Hey, I think I'm gonna retire in a few years. If you ever need help, let me know." Well, in the summer of 2020, when I joined Gifted Travel Network, I reached out to her and said, "I am taking this crazy leap of faith. I think I'm going to start my own business with my own brand and join this host agency, and I think this is the right fit. Do you wanna come along on the journey?" And she said yes. So that one, I think I was pretty fortunate on that one because I've known her my entire life.
Yeah.
So Audrey she runs her own show. She's an independent contractor on my team, and she manages all of her own details.
Yep.
So she kind of runs on her own in North Carolina. And then Bryn Yeager is my amazing, I mean, assistant is not a good enough word. I don't know what the best word is to give her, but she is that. And she ironically also was a client. So she is a sister of someone I know here in town. And I did an extended Hawaii vacation for her family. Was thanking her dad one day on the phone because the sister had made some dining reservations, and I said, "Be sure to thank Carrie. She made these dining reservations for y'all." And I said, "I wish I could hire her. I really need somebody great." He said, "You really need to talk to Bryn, and she always manages our trips." And I kind of thought he was kidding. But then when I reviewed Bryn's details with her, I said, "This is what your dad said. Is he serious?" And she said, "Yes," because she had some things changing in her world and was gonna be looking for a new opportunity. And, I said, "Let's try it out for a few weeks when you get back from Hawaii," and that was, goodness, almost 3 years ago.
Wow.
So she and Bryn manages you asked how I delegate. Bryn manages all of the details once I have the trip to a certain point.
Yep.
So
Yep.
once everything is booked, and I've had the conversations with the client, I know what they're looking for. Bryn steps in. She doesn't take over the trip. I'm still involved. So
Right.
I know everybody's team works a little differently, but I'm still involved with the trip all the way through. But
Right.
Bryn is in the background making dining reservations,
Yep.
transfers, all of those
Yep.
details. She's managing the super important part.
Right. So that I love that you brought that up. That seems to be definitely a working way to bring someone on the team. Um, I would call her your client services manager or something like that. I don't know. But I love, I think for me, when I had to figure this out in my own travel business, what we did is we broke down the sales cycle into really 3 different phases. The first phase is the marketing phase where it's like just awareness. So marketing is a phase of the sales cycle. You have to build awareness of you have to be list building, you have to be relationship building. That's your whole sales funnel. That's your digital marketing campaigns, all of it. Then the second phase starts the moment someone reaches out to you with an inquiry. And then that phase ends when they make a deposit. And so this phase 2, I say is like the true sales phase. And so it sounds like that's the part you love. That's
Mhm.
that's your jam, right?
Yes.
Is having that first conversation with the client, getting to know them, really understanding what they're looking for, and then getting to work on putting together an itinerary that's perfect for them. Um, and that's what we see most often with our agencies at Gifted Travel Network is the agency owner loves that phase 2 of the sales cycle. And then phase 3 is from the moment you take deposit to the moment they return from travel. And so that's really the operational phase. And it's an opportunity to really shine because if you're an online booking engine, you disappear after the deposit's made, right? So it's
Exactly.
an opportunity to and so that's why it's so amazing. But here's the thing that people don't understand that you clearly do understand. We're not good at all of those different things, right? If you're good at sales, you're probably not that good at the details. and the following up and the pushing something forward and the project management of a client. And so that's why it's really important to recognize what you're good at and spend 80% of your time in the stuff that you're really good at, and hire someone to do the stuff that you're not so good at. But I also want to say that I get the sense you're really good at manifesting what you want, because both Audrey and Bren came about without a whole lot of effort on your part. And I know other people, they finally get to the place where they're like, okay, I've heard it enough times. I need to hire. I'm ready to hire. And then they make the common mistake of, oh, my next door neighbor has a daughter who just graduated from college and she's looking for a job. So let me just hire her because she's available and she's really well educated. But they don't take the time to make sure that this is the right fit and get clarity even on the role that they're hiring for. Um, did you do any of that pre-work when you specifically, Bryn, I want to talk about, because were you in the process of finding a client services manager when you had that conversation with her dad?
So, ironically, I had made a huge mistake in that role
Okay.
first, which
Yes.
helped me.
Yes.
Actually, had a conversation with Jen, from GTN about it because
Yeah.
I had to let someone go, which was really
Yeah.
hard for me. That
Hard.
is completely against every fiber of my being.
Yeah.
That was one of the hardest things I've ever done. But
Having to be the
I
bad guy, right?
it was
And
it
have
just
hard conversations.
I just oh, I do not enjoy that. So I had hired someone because I thought she was the right fit. And I did ask what I thought were very good questions before I hired her. And then I just learned that unfortunately, I think I liked her personality so much that maybe it overshadowed. I don't know if I could have, because I went back and thought about that. I don't know if I
Yeah.
could have seen something else, which is why I went to Jen for some guidance at that point, because I thought, you know what, I want to not make this mistake again.
Yeah.
And so I was not actively looking for someone. I did not have a post out, if that's what you're asking. I was not
Right.
seeking, on different platforms. I did need help, but I was
Right.
very reserved because I was nervous I would make that same mistake again. And it was great that I let that person go because she is a better fit in a different role to do
Right.
something else. It was not the right fit for her.
So
So I hope, she's happier in whatever role she went to. What I did differently the second time when I did ask Brent to come on was I had a trial period, and I think that's key, because I did not have that the first time around. I just jumped straight in.
yeah.
And this time, since I was more reserved, I said, let's give this X number of weeks and let's have this trial period where we see how it goes from both sides.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people think they want to work and travel
Yeah.
and don't really know what the in and out day to day looks like.
Yeah.
So working in travel and working on the details of a trip is not just flitting from this resort to this resort and the fun things you see on Instagram. It can be those things, but there's a lot of hard work that goes into it. So I think having that trial period is key if somebody's in that phase so that you have an easy out to say, I just don't think this is the right fit. And it's not quite so confrontational as it was for me to let someone go.
I love that you shared that, because sometimes our biggest mistakes are our greatest gifts, right? And um being an entrepreneur is one heck of a personal development boot camp. Um and so, and I like to say, from a mindset perspective, you're never more clear on what you want than when you experience what you don't want. And so going through the experience of having someone that's not a good fit is very telling. It gives you clarity that you didn't know you didn't have.
Exactly. Exactly. I did not know what I did not know at the time.
Yeah,
And I think I also mistakenly I sometimes assume that people see things or think about things the way I would.
Mhm.
which is
Oh,
not
yeah.
it's not fair at all, but I think I do that in lots of different ways in my world, and so that was eye-opening for me because looking at
Mhm.
something might seem so clear to me, but it's not so clear to somebody else.
Yes. Yes. I love that. Love, love, love that. So you, from hearing a little bit more about it now, I think you definitely are I think you just naturally don't bring a lot of resistance to this journey, which means it it it's a smoother journey for you. Now, I'm not gonna say you haven't had ups and downs, but I think that's one of the reasons why you've, um, found the success that you found, in a pretty quick period of time, right? You started KHC Grand Travel in 2020,
Mm.
which is when you joined. Prior to that, you were working with as an independent contractor of someone else,
Mhm.
and
Yes.
that's where you got your legs,
Yes,
your
I learned
service
a lot.
legs.
I've learned a great deal.
But you started your own business in a year. We had a pandemic.
It was, anyone in travel at that point remembers what a crazy year it was. It was an amazing year, but it was the absolute right time,
Yeah,
the best time, honestly, for me to
yeah.
start, my company. My husband had actually just lost his job as well.
Okay.
I want to say in April of that year, he lost his job. And
Wow.
so I think it was May that I decided I was all in and I was gonna go this route. And, my dear sweet friend Keely Culpepper, oh gosh, I love her. She and I were on a similar path, and we were actually at the same host agency and both knew that it was the time we wanted to start our own brands and our own businesses. So, I'm forever grateful to her for not only that time and helping as we transition, but, even now, she's still amazing, 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 so dear to my heart.
So you guys had each other when you made this pretty massive leap of faith. That's awesome.
Yes, yes,
That's really
which
cool.
not everybody has that, so I know how fortunate I am.
Yeah. But even those 4 years of not having your own brand and, you know, learning the ropes under somebody else's brand also gave you a lot of clarity of what you really wanted, and you decided that you wanted this yourself too. I truly believe that there are 2, I don't think distinct. I mean, I don't think it comes down to only 2, but I think there are 2 paths, um, that most people who are very drawn to this career are gonna fall into. The first path is the path that we're talking about now that you decided to move into, which is it's much more entrepreneurial, or it is for someone who has much more of an entrepreneurial spirit. They're hungry to have their own business. They've thought about having their own business all their lives. The newness of something really excites them. The thought of creating their own brand and designing their own brand is like just super exciting to them. There's very much an entrepreneurial basis to who they are, and they have a passion for travel, and they want to plan travel, and they're really good at project management or relationships or just who knows, maybe they're super good at like knowing tiny little hotels all over the world or anyway. So that's the one path, which I call it the travel business owner path. And then the other path is a travel seller path, which is the person who has very similar passion for travel, maybe has a ton of wisdom on travel because they've traveled all their lives, um, but just doesn't have as much of that entrepreneurial spirit. And that kind of person makes for like a really good booking member for someone like you.
Mhm,
And then I think Audrey falls into that bucket. Um, she she doesn't really have an interest in having her own brand. She loves being under your brand, and she loves helping her clients and selling travel and, you know, so just for anyone who's listening, keep that in mind that if you think that you're more choose the path that you're more aligned with. Because if you go down the wrong path, it's not helpful for anyone. So if you're that super entrepreneurial person who becomes a booking member for someone else, you're not going to stay a booking member with that
Right.
person. Um,
I've actually had I'm sorry, I mean to interrupt you.
no, go
Um,
for it.
I've I've had, conversations with 2 people, who are at GTN, 2 people who they're amazing, and they thought they wanted to be under my brand, but I could see those things that
Mm,
you were talking about in them, and
yeah,
I encouraged them to go a different route, because I think you're doing yourself a disservice if you're holding that back, and it may seem scary at
yeah,
first, but if you know you have that in you, go
yeah,
ahead and take that leap and go down that path.
yeah, yeah. And our travel MBA program is not for both of those. Our travel MBA program is for the entrepreneur
Right.
that wants to be a business owner, that wants to become a seven-figure travel business owner. Um, and we're very clear about that when we talk to the candidates that are we ask a lot of questions to really decide if they've got that entrepreneurial spirit. Because we don't want someone coming into our program and then they get in and they're like, they've invested all this money, but they're like, "Oh my gosh, I really don't wanna do this." Um, because that doesn't help anybody. So,
Right.
yeah.
It can be
Um,
scary, but just take the leap of faith.
exactly. But
Yeah.
what is that quote that I love to reference now? It's Stephen Pressfield, who wrote a book called The War of Art.
Mm.
Instead of The Art of War, The War of Art, which is basically about the inner battle if you want to pursue something that is an art to you, which anything is basically. Um, it's the war of being creative. Um, and that so anyway, he shared this quote in an interview with Oprah Winfrey, um, or she shared it with him, which is why I always give her credit for the quote. But it's really his, which is the more um, the more averse you are to an action, the more critical it is to the evolution of one's soul.
Oh, wow.
The more you resist doing something, the more important it is to the evolution of your soul. So that that quote I held so close to my heart when I was going through a divorce because it gave me a sense of hope. It gave me a sense of maybe this is happening for me, not to me. Um, and it really was 100% accurate at the end of the day that I was white knuckling staying in a marriage and not moving forward with a divorce that I didn't want. And I was just white knuckling it. And when I finally let go and leaned in to this thing that I had to go through, it, s- I I grew so much, in the 10 years following. I grew so much. Like I am a very different person today and I get to live a life that I absolutely love because of that. But and I wouldn't have this life if I hadn't gone through it, if I just kept white knuckling it. So it's the same thing with entrepreneurship. If you're very, very scared of it, maybe that fear is actually something you should be paying attention to and leaning into as opposed to trying to dodge and avoid.
Mhm. It's a good point. It's a very good
All
point.
right. So, we are getting to the top of the hour. One of the things I want to ask about is choosing the right home because you went through the process where you were an independent contractor. I think that's how you started, right? As an
Mhm,
independent contractor for somebody else,
mhm.
and we're probably with a different host agency. Um, so, what is your advice on trying to find that right fit, and how important do you think it is?
Oh, I think it's monumentally important to to find where you feel comfortable and where you're going to have the support that
Yeah.
you need. Everybody needs different support too.
Mhm.
I think that's important to think about what is important to you. Um, and honestly, I went to, when we started looking at different host agencies, we went to host agency reviews. We went to that website and started looking because honestly, I did not know that a host agency like Gifted Travel Network existed. I
Mhm.
did not even know that was an option.
Right.
So I was so siloed in the world that I was in. As soon as I learned that this model was an option, I said, "I know that's for me, and now let's see which host agency which has that same model is the right fit for me."
Clarify
Thankfully,
by model.
with a model of having where we're all banded together in a network, but we all have our own brands,
Right.
and then you can have a team if you would like, or you don't have to have a team. There's a lot of flexibility, I
Yeah.
think, with Gifted Travel Network, which is huge because we're all a little bit different.
Yes.
And I think that makes us amazing because there's always somebody out there that's gonna be a little bit similar and different, so you can learn if you wanna do something differently. So I think it offers a lot, on that front. But there's several host agencies, obviously, that work in the same manner and have that model. So I think the most important thing is to reach out and talk to people
Mm.
who are part of those host agencies. Have real
Yeah.
conversations with people and express your questions on what's important to you and what you're looking.
Yeah. Love
That's
that.
huge.
We
Ex
love host agency reviews. We're huge
Mhm.
fans of them, um, support them, and we also, you know, are one of their biggest we're at their highest level of, sponsorship, so, it's a very good relationship. Steph Lee is incredible, and what she has built over there is nothing short of amazing, and it's such amazing service. Because I remember when I was at that point, I didn't have host agency reviews, and I switched 3 times, I think. But it's funny that you say that because I think not everybody understands the reason why we are as flexible as we are is because I planted that seed when I was an advisor for 10 years and really struggled to find a host that I thought was truly supporting me as an entrepreneur. And so, like you said, that's why it was important. When we decided and made the decision to start a host agency, we are going to let them have their own brand. We want them to have their own brand. We encourage that. Um, we wanted to have a 100% commission share option, and we wanted to let people build their own teams um, in a way that was a win-win for both the host and the agency owner. So, um, I guess what I'm trying to say is like GTN, the heart of GTN and the reason why we move forward in the way that we do is because at the heart, our mission is to empower entrepreneurs in travel. And so we're gonna try and do that as many ways as possible. All right, so we are overtime now. Um, I want to end with my favorite question of the podcast that I ask almost everybody, um, is which is we get to have experiences that you would never even dream of in this profession. So, can you share one of your favorite pinch me, oh my god, I can't believe I get to do this for a living moments?
I knew this question was coming, and I'm still struggling with narrowing it down, but, I've been super fortunate. I think the one that still stands out for me was on a trip in London, on a familiarization trip,
Uh-huh.
with our dear partners, Noteworthy. When
Oh,
we
you
got
took a
I
noteworthy trip. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Um, there were many things from that trip. The one that I think is the most unique is when we went to Windsor, we actually got to meet, a member of the Knights of the Garter,
Oh my gosh.
and that it gives me chills just thinking about it. It was so much more than just walking the grounds. We were
Yeah.
walking the grounds with this gentleman who it's still I still have a hard time believing that I actually got to do that. Not only
Right.
did we walk the grounds with him and get to talk to him and get to know him, he went with us across the street to the pub to have lunch and hang out and have a beer, and it was pretty fabulous. Um, and we got to do so many things on that trip, which now my clients get to do. But that was so unique and so special that
Yeah.
it's something I'll remember my whole life for certain.
I can only imagine. I We just got back from, my own family vacation where our pre was in London, and we everything was, um, done with Noteworthy, and they are what make travel agents or luxury travel advisors really rock stars at what they do, um, because they have the most incredible relationships, and they truly roll out the red carpet and open doors and give you secret keys to things that nobody else has.
100%. They actually were able to do something for clients of mine. They were able to, have a blessing at St. Patrick's in Dublin, just the 2 of them.
Ugh,
There's very, very special things, and so I know I said my thing, but I think equally as much when I say, "Wow, this is my life," it's when our clients get to have
yes.
moments and maybe it's not something as spectacular as, the private time in the St. Patrick's in Dublin, but we have clients who are in Europe for the very first time. They're in their 60s, they've never been to Europe, and he sent me a message this week and said, "You have made us feel confident about going, and everything's been taken care of, and we know it's going to be great." It's moments like that when we get that text or that
Right.
email, it I mean, and it happens quite often. So it's
Yeah.
our reminder of how
Yep.
important what we are doing is. I truly
Yep.
believe I'm doing what God wants me to do. I mean, we are making a difference for people.
Oh my god.
It's a blessing.
What a beautiful way to end this episode. Because that's the fulfilling side, right? That there's, um this path has financial satisfaction for sure, but you have to be pretty much a seven-figure travel entrepreneur to get to the financial satisfaction. It has incredible freedom and flexibility, right? You get to be a mom, to your 3 kids, you get to be a wife, you get to, have the life that you wanna have and be a business owner and work where you wanna work, when you wanna work, with whom you wanna work, have a great team, all that. And then the fulfillment, that's the fulfilling piece is, like, you get that almost daily probably too. Like, it really is, um a life that you get to live. A life that you get to live, but also a life that you love.
Absolutely. It is a huge blessing and an honor to get to do what we do. So we
Yeah.
don't take it lightly.
Well, thank you. This was really, really good. I know that you've inspired quite a few people today. So thank you for sharing and thank you for all of your stories and wisdom and just letting us pulling back the curtain on your business.
100%. Thank you for having me.